Morning. This is the second time I've stood here giving the chairman's address at the conference. And in fact, when I got interested in the foundation, I was trying to understand what the foundation did. And so I asked the question, what is the foundation and what are its goals? And I very quickly latched on to the compliance framework, and I said, actually, it's about standards. In fact, John's slightly stolen the story a little bit by showing you quite a few things that are going on that are not actually standards. They're not guidance, they're actually more activities than that. So what is the foundation about, and what are we trying to achieve? And can you work it out when you look at the pattern of activity that's going on in this organization? So what I thought I'd do, I'd just do a bit of a step back into the environment in which we operate and the sort of world of IoT and IoT security. And if you sort of think about the drivers for secure IoT, unfortunately, the world as I recall a few years ago is still with us. You know, we still do have the Gothic horror of these, you know, perhaps they're not dolls anymore. I don't know if anyone would dare produce an insecure IoT doll, but perhaps they still do. But there are a whole range of different stories, you know, from medical apps that are giving away data and then, you know, scaring people with cars and things like that. And these are the stories that get the headlines. And so is IoTSF about promoting these scary headlines? Well, actually, no, we're not. We're about recognizing the scary headlines, but we're actually about doing more. In fact, what we're aiming to do is to do something about it. And so do we still need work on awareness of the security issue? And I would have liked to think that people in this room don't need it, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But actually, as we start to look at different verticals, different applications of IoT, we discovered quite quickly, and we held our first smart building working group meeting, and I was really quite surprised what they asked for. And one of the things they asked for were, can we raise the awareness in the whole building marketplace about the importance of securing these technologies they're already deploying? And that came as a bit of a surprise to me, but surely don't they read the papers, don't they understand? And clearly the answer was no, actually, they don't. They're making decisions on the basis of being unaware. Or if they are aware, they have no idea what they're able to do about it. So awareness is a big deal, and we still have to do it in places. But actually, the really important thing, and it happens, I think, at the boardroom with security now, which is boardrooms do talk cybersecurity. They do actually, you know, whether it was GDPR or whether it was all the news that they do see, or the fact that their hotel information has just been stolen yet again. But they are aware of these things, but what they don't know necessarily is what to do about it. And that's where we come along in the world of IoT, and we say, hey, there's a framework, there's a compliance framework that, you know what, if you follow this, you'll be in a pretty good state. And actually, if you even follow some of it, you'll be in a better state than many actual systems are. We found that just the framework on its own isn't enough for particular verticals and situations. Actually, that's where the best practice guides come in, because people need to be taken along the journey. It needs to be put into their language. It needs to be localized into the particular sector that they work. It needs to be focused on a particular issue. That's why you can go and read a document about responsible disclosure. You haven't got to try and work it all out from a framework. There's something there will explain issues that people need to understand and progress. Of course, how do you get secure IoT? Well, you get it not only that you're aware of it, and you know what to do about it, but you care and you actually do something about it. And what's driving that? And actually, customer demand and customer expectation are the most important motivators to any organization. If a customer says, you know what, I'm not accepting that. I spoke at a meeting at the Royal Society of Medicine, and afterwards, a group of clinicians and surgeons came up to me over coffee, and then we get surrounded sometimes after a presentation, and they said to me, Paul, we think there's phenomenal benefit for these things. We're just frightened of them. We don't think we can trust them. And that's a real issue. If they said, we understand that security is a big deal, and we have no confidence that the security is being dealt with in the things that we're being offered. And that's really sad if people's health could be helped, if surgeons could be helped in their work and they're being held back by worrying about security. But there are areas where there isn't that demand naturally, and of course regulation, and the regulators are talking about coming in there. And then once you know you want to do something about it, then of course you need to know the skills. And I spoke to an engineer in the morning. He was an energy engineer in the morning of yesterday, and he said, yes, we've been looking at this, and we are encrypting the transmissions. I'm going, haven't quite understood what the full security story is here if you think that somehow encrypting the transmission is the only thing you have to worry about when you're concerned with deploying a system like that. So we're interested in skills, hence training, things like that, but we're interested in solutions. We're interested in services to actually make a difference. And actually we're interested in certification. So those doctors, those surgeons could actually say, you know what, I now trust that it's been through the appropriate testing and it's okay. So this whole demand and supply chain thing is really important, that we do need the demand side to be pulling along. But I think what we're seeing is that's beginning to happen in these sort of what I've expressed there as a single swim lanes. And that's quite a problem in the supply side if every single vertical in the world specified its own particular need for a capability on a chip. What does that mean to chip manufacturers? So they have to have the medical chip, they have to have the shipping chip, the aircraft chip. Well, clearly what we want is as ubiquitous a solution set. So we need to try and converge that, and that's one of the visions that we have to try and bring that together. So I think the industry as a whole is in this storming phase. If you think of the classic management thing of the sort of storming and norming and then performing. I think what we're about in the foundation is trying to put some norming into this storming. And we still get bad news. We still get actually quite a few publications now. There are lots of white papers you can download on the internet. Not many of them then lead you on to having a solution, but they do tell you sort of stuff. So, and actually we're seeing frustration now in some of the regulators. I didn't think we'd hear government ministers say, actually, we will regulate. It's just a matter of when. So that's a very interesting dynamic that we see. And then in different sectors, everyone says, hey, let's have a trust mark, and I've got to produce a trust mark, and what are we going to do? So there's a lot of stuff going on now in this phase. And so we want to progress solutions. We want to see real things happen out there. We actually want to drive for adoption. What matters to the foundation is that there are secure things out there that make a difference. And that's what we want to see happening. And in order to do that, we know we've got to keep up with innovation, and a lot of, quote, standards just don't do that. So we have to be agile and fast, and I'm pleased to say that we are producing revisions of things, which frustrates people, but is the reality of what we have to do. And we are about enabling that actual whole supply chain demand. If we can get that voice of demand becoming clearer and clearer, then the economics will flow through for that system. And where the end-to-end community won't do it, then actually we know regulators well. So rather than let the regulator go and write their own standard in the corner, what we're trying to do is to say to regulators, you know what, there's a really good basis, there's a common framework you can go to, and if we start to use that, we'll have that common platform where every regulatory regime could start referencing back to the same base. And we know they'll have their own versions, but if it's founded, and the foundation has got a really good word in its name, if it's founded in that activity, then hopefully we'll have that commonality that we need. So we are about reducing those barriers, and we are about avoiding duplication. So we're really, really trying not to invent things that have existed before, and we'll try to say to the world, please don't do it. We don't need to invent the way a test lab works, but we do need to help the test lab test the criteria for secure IoT. So we're about working with test labs to have them use their standard processes, to have them use the sort of marks and the names that they have, and actually flow through the knowledge of security that they have to apply in that situation. So don't expect us to be reinventing things that actually do exist, but we do want to have an IoT context. And I would say to those of you involved in standards in particular industries, can we just add IoT into existing standards rather than create the IoT version in a particular subset? Yes, we do need to reference common material. Hopefully you would like to see that the framework is that. So what is our mission? Well, it's making it safe to connect. and we will pursue any reasonable course that will help adoption. We're about getting people to be aware, helping them understand how to do it, and actually trying to make the supply chain and the economics work so that solutions really are real. And so, we are working with test labs and accreditation bodies to try and get that consistent set of criteria, that the framework applied to existing processes and existing accreditations. You will see us in sectors working on best practices. Again, same harmonized set of requirements, but localized in that sector. So those of you involved in the smart buildings work, for example, which I've been, you hopefully will see that it begins to be real. It'll have the language of that sector, but actually it'll refer back to the same fundamentals and the same underlying platform. So we are about solutions, hence the secure architecture work. I've already mentioned regulators. And actually, we're very keen to keep working with co-travelers, and we don't see people who compete. There is no competition if it improves the adoption of secure solutions, and that is really what we're about. So I hope you enjoy the day. It's, again, a great opportunity for you to see what's available, what's going on, and sort of take the mission of adoption. What's the value of the investment of time that companies and individuals in particular put into this? I like to see it's that stepping back and say, you know what, I've just seen that deployed, and I've seen it deployed well. And that particular vendor is using something. I want to go back to the Royal Society of Medicine in a few years' time and have the surgeons say to me, you know what, some of this technology that we're using is fantastic and it's really good. So thank you very much indeed for listening to me, and I hope you enjoy your day.